Mattie McGrath.
Margaret and I am happy to speak on this bill here this evening, which seeks to give effect to the taxation changes announced on Budget Day. The bill also provides for the Budget Day announcements of a reduction to 4.5% in the 4.75% rate of USC, and an increase to the ceiling of the band on which the 2% rate of USC will be payable. We know from the ESRI report that income tax, including USC, is the largest individual source of tax revenue in Ireland, accounting for over 35% of the total. Thus, fluctuations in this source of revenue have a significant bearing on the total tax revenue. The research also finds that income tax revenue automatically increases by 2% for every 1% increase on taxable income. For the Universal Social Charge, or USC, revenue automatically increases by 1.2% for every 1% increase in taxable income. The result is simply that income tax revenues are more sensitive to economic fluctuations than revenue arising from the USC. While this might appear to be a reason for the government to leave the USC intact and not to seek to abolish it, given how stable a source of income it is, I do think we need to reconsider that position, given how hated this tax is among ordinary workers. And hated is the proper adjective, Minister. You must know that yourself. It is hated. It's punitive, and it's very, very hard on low-paid income. And it's grossly and inherently unfair system. And of course, it was introduced for a short term, but like everything, it's a source of confidence and supply, like you have from Fianna Fáil at the moment. It's too cushy for you, and you don't want to do anything with it for the ordinary people. And I wouldn't expect much different from Fine Gael. I note that the Finance Bill also provides for an increase in the home carer tax credit and the earned income tax credit. This will certainly bring partial relief to the many thousands of people who are affected, but it most certainly does not go far enough. We know that Family Carers Ireland have described the budget as bitterly disappointing, while acknowledging that a modest €5 a week increase in the weekly social welfare payments to some carers will be a small help. The family carers also accept that other measures are a step in the right direction, such as the €300 increase in the home carer tax credit, the reduced prescription charges for over 70s, a €150 million increase in the funding for disability services so badly needed, €55 million additional funding for mental health, and that's so badly needed, such an epidemic problem with mental health, and an extra €20 million for the National Treatment Purchase Fund, which won't go anywhere, with people languishing and all kinds of queues waiting. But I hope that the €55 million for the mental health will be ring-fenced and will be spent in mental health, and we'll get a seismic shift that is spent in therapies and spent in counselling, rather than spent, as it is at the moment, the vast majority of it, on pharmaceuticals and drugs and medicines. We need a whole re-evaluation of how we deal with mental health, not dishing out prescriptions willy-nilly and greasing the fat paws of the pharma industry. However, they also say that there are many family carers who may not have seen any benefit from this budget. This is especially true for families juggling paid employment and a caring role. Young carers and full-time carers that are not in receipt of carers allowance due to means testing. They don't get a shilling, not a cent. This is an issue that must be dealt with, especially in light of the findings that I highlighted earlier this year that found that there were 7,941 people stated that they provided regular unpaid personal help for a friend or family member. That's a staggering figure, and we're lucky to have them. We should praise them and try and support them, not penalise them. Where would our hospital queues be or a hospital be if those 7,941 volunteers weren't there? And I think we must look at that. As I said, the problem of disability, there's another issue with disability in my own county. What is most shocking to me, what is deeply concerning, is the additional finding, and this was very serious, that there are 138 carers in Tipperary under 15 years. This is a situation that demands immediate examination. These are little younger, better than children, or young adolescents, They're not and shouldn't be expected to be caring. While it's wonderful that they would be interested in caring and helping out at Cowra leis na Dáil Éireann, certainly, but to be having them, that burden placed on them. They need to be in school. They need to be at play. They need to be in sport and whatever other activities people, their siblings and their colleagues and friends are doing. Not, having the arduous burden of having to care for ill ones. Minister, this is disgraceful. These statistics demonstrate that the clear need for government to prioritise and fully resource carers' needs and to ensure that they are provided with every level of assistance possible. And it's clearly not happening, Minister. I said when you have young people feeling obliged and compelled to do that. While it's good, as I said, to look after their loved ones, that's fine to help out and to assist, but not to be the sole carer and to be inhibiting their education, their creativity, their participation in sport and other activities, music, song and dance, anything that they enjoy, whether it be literature or theatre or whatever. Not to be tied into the houses looking after people, which they shouldn't have to do. When you have a sector of our society providing over 250,000 hours of care every week, not a year, 250,000 hours every week caring hours, then it is very clear that the work they are doing is of fundamental importance. Where would the hospital queues be? Where would our nursing homes be? We just couldn't cope if that 250,000 hours weekly, 52 weeks of the year, wasn't carried out. So we need to show respect for that. That is keeping people out of hospitals, keeping them where they're happy in their home, where they're happy and will make better recoveries. That must be reflected in the government's approach to carers and their families in the future, Minister, and you had a missed opportunity. We also know from reporting today by Oireachtas that the people in need of HSC home care packages are waiting longer than 2 years in some cases for the service, while the average delay is 3.5 months. A damning new report reveals today the current waiting list for family home packages is 6,100. Where is your moral compass, Minister? Have you sunk that low in looking after the fat cats and everybody else that you ignore these people who have given so much service to our state, who have paid their taxes, raised their families, housed themselves, that you would have people waiting when they need it most, when they're vulnerable and when they're ill and feeble, that they have to wait 6,100 waiting lists and someone waiting up to 2.5 years. And I salute Oireachtas and other journalists that expose this. But it runs like water off a duck of yourself and our Teflon Taoiseach Varadkar, who is good for spin and PR, as Deputy Naughton said when he resigned 10 days ago, that he was only interested in optics, not fibre optics, that he was interested in polls, not telegraph polls, but opinion polls. An obsession with that. He had the audacity to set a 5 million spin machine in place at the beginning of this year. Moria withdrew, but we're not fooled. We know he still has it. But he's like a spinning top, and he keeps spinning until it goes out of control, and he'll fly off it someday in a heap of brush. Brishta agus Kailta. It's disgraceful to have that kind of a waiting list, and you should be ashamed of it. It's reported that pensioners are now finding it more difficult to access home care than a decade ago. Just imagine. And you're in government now, Minister, for 7 years. And what you weren't going to do when you came in. It's more difficult for pensioners to access home care packages now than it was 10 years ago. What are we doing in this country? Where are we going? I said, where is the moral compass? You don't have it, Minister, but if you have it, it's in the soles of your shoes or someplace else, or in a spin office up in government buildings. The findings are taken from an investigation by the Carer Alliance Ireland. And I salute them and the home carers, and I salute family carers, and Catherine Cox, and indeed Councillor Richard Malloy, a colleague of mine in South Tipperary, the manager of family carers in South Tipperary. Care Alliance Ireland Executive Director Liam O'Sullivan estimated that there is a gap of 18%, or 4 million care hours, between what is needed and the service people receive. And we're talking Oireachtas and Tara. Listen to those figures, not my figures, that a manager director of Care Alliance Ireland, Liam O'Sullivan, he estimates a gap of 18%, or 4 million care hours. Not 4, not 40, not 400, not 4,000, 4 million care hours. You'd hang your head in shame, between what is needed and the service people receive. A gaping indictment, a staggering indictment on your government and your services. The Minister will stand up at the Taoiseach this morning and tell us that we have now 17 billion into the HSE. $1 billion extra than last year. Great pronouncement. But you can't see that we're finding money and it's been sucked and siphoned off and going to a black hole. The waste is staggering. And yet here, the very lowest and most vulnerable of all are 4 million care hours short. And we have plenty of it for the private caring companies and the prices they charge. But that's what this government's all about, looking after their friends in private places. Looking after the retired HSE officials and department officials who are setting up their own private services when they've seen the gap, when they've created the gap when they were in service, and then they're allowing their own businesses to thrive afterwards. It's disgusting, and I feel ashamed to be any way associated with it. What has the Minister provided for this bill that will deal with the awful situation from getting worse? 10 years ago it was better. I know we had a crash and a crisis, but surely we have to be making, with all the talk of recovery, as you had in the last election, recovery. So you saw where that got you. Not very far. The finance bill also provides for the change in the 9% VAT rate for hotels, restaurants and a range of other services to 13.5%, as well as an increase in the excise duty on cigarettes of 50 cents. I said, look, we should deal with the cigarettes in another situation. People are addicted to them, and putting them up every year is not helping the situation for some young people. But the increase in the VAT was outrageous. You were warned and warned. And Deputy Broome was talking earlier, yes, Dublin hotels are booming. And not them all, but the vast majority of them. But anything outside the pale isn't, and is struggling. And it was reckless of you in the extreme to increase that VAT. You had all the warnings and you had all the indicators to say that we're not having the same recovery. You should know that from the South East Minister down in Wexford. And you're not having the same boom and madness as you have in this city. So it was stupid, it was foolish, it was short-sighted, and it was indeed patently wrong. We know that the reaction to this measure has been of one of dismay within the tourism sector. In his budget address, the Minister said a review of the 9% VAT rate had found that the measures had done the job. What job? I remember a former teacher who said getting a lot done and more to do. What job? It's done the job in Dublin. Yes, once Dublin is doing fine, to hell with rural Ireland. To hell of the Connacht. It prevails under your government again. That old saying and adage. Oliver Cromwell had it when he came to your county and my county in Tipperary. And to hell of the Connacht. It's back again to hell of to Dublin. The high road and no road. And Bóthar Dorica. And Bóthar Gloss in Ballyarclia, where it was not all rosy and Dublin. There's lots of problems, as we know, with people homeless and with people trying to get a bed for a night and with people trying to live and the cost of living. Look at the students and the cost of their accommodation and the disgraceful way they're being treated. Our young people that we want to nurture. But I know you got chucky sheet, but you're forgetting about that all the time. He said in the new economic reality, it was appropriate, if you wouldn't mind, to increase the VAT in the tourism sector to 13.5% from January 2019. This will raise 466 million. Nice figure, yeah. Look at the damage it will do to fledgling, recovering trade in places like Tipperary, in towns like Carrigan, Shure, Clonmel and Dungarvan, and indeed right up into Tullis, Nina and Borrisakane and all the smaller villages and indeed our beautiful, Lake District in Tipperary and all the different towns, Cashel the Moon, the famed Rock of Cashel. We're getting the numbers up, but now we're going to kill it off. We could have went up by 1%, a little, but not be so greedy. But you wouldn't listen to anybody. This is simply not the case. It may have done its job in some areas of Dublin, in particular the city centre, but it's absolutely the case that the measure itself is needed in rural Ireland. And why couldn't you prevail that or make that point, Minister? Or have you any say? Is it the sacred trio of Leo, the Taoiseach, and Pascal and Owen, the three Dublin city slickers, who hardly know where Naas is, who hardly know where Monaghan is, only all about Dublin and selfies and the spin and all the guru that goes with that. So I think it was a stupid decision. Stamp duty. Section 46 of the Finance Bill 2018 provides for the extension of young trained farmers stamp duty relief for a further 3 years up to the end of 2021, and I welcome that. Agriculture recovered us of the last number of recessions, but not so this time because we're in dire straits. This release provides for full exemption on stamp duty on transfers of farmland to certain young trained farmers. This exemption from stamp duty is designed to encourage and transfer of farmland to a new generation of farmers with relevant qualifications, the transfer made by the way of a gift or sale. Good measure. In order to be eligible, the farmer must be under the age of 35, you'll get a progression rate as well in farmers, transfer of land, on the date of the deed of transfer, and must also have attained one of the necessary qualifications. Very important. We need to be open at it and educated and the best and brightest and as good as any place else in Europe. The young trained farmer must also, for a period of 5 years from the date of the execution of the deed of transfer, spend not less than 50% of his or her normal working time farming the land and retain ownership of the land. This is punitive enough, but I can see why it's necessary. Transfers by way of lease or where a power of revocation exists will not qualify for the exemption. I understand that too. As Conor Flannery has reported in Agriland, some additional measures were added to the Finance Bill 2018 that were not announced by the Minister on Budget Day. Section 46 of the bill is also being availed of to bring the legislative provisions that deal with the young trained farmer stamp duty relief and stamp duty farm consolidation relief into compliance with EU state regulations that apply to them. These provisions include requiring that a business plan is provided to Teagasc before a newly qualified young trained farmer can receive a refund of stamp duty he or she has paid in the course of the provision or purchase of the land. As well as that, a cumulative lifetime cap of 70,000 will apply to the amount of tax relief credit that can be enjoyed by a farmer under the Young Trained Farmer Stamp Duty Relief and Stock Relief for Young Trained Farmers and Succession of Farmer Partnerships. Provisions will also include a number of other changes to legislation governing the Young Trained Farmer and Stamp Duty Relief and the Stamp Duty Farm Consolidation Relief to ensure that they are state aid compliant. Income averaging and stock relief, very important there as well, and IFA and other agencies look for it. Meanwhile, the bill includes a set of details over averaging stock relief. Income averaging allows eligible farmers, and I say eligible, to calculate a taxable income as the average of their income in the current year and the previous 4 years on a rolling basis, thus smoothing the tax liability over a 5-year cycle, especially in a year like this. Blino Fásach, with the wet spring and the snow shocked and indeed in the severe drought. At present, certain farmers are not entitled to avail of the income averaging regime as they or their spouse or civil partners earns another income off land. The amendment recently announced by the Minister Donohoe will extend the scheme out to such farmers, and I welcome that, with averaging only applying in respect of farm profits. This measure will increase the number of farmers who are able to avail. Furthermore, stock relief is a relief from income tax in respect of increases in the value of farms' trading stock. It is allowable as a deduction of a defined percentage amount of the increase in the value of the trading stock at the end of the accounting period over and above the opening value. The 25% general stock relief on income tax and 50% stock relief on income tax for registered farm partnerships and 100% stock relief on income tax for certain young trained farmers were due to expire in December, and I welcome their extension, as all farming bodies had. However, their long-standing reliefs have been extended out for a further 3 years, and that's welcome. All that, Minister, and I am about to submission, and I'm running out of time now, had made a lot of suggestions. I had made suggestions in many areas. I had made one in relation to the vultures that are buying all the land in my county in Tipperary. A vulture fund called Coolmore Estates. And this tax reliefs are brought in for young farmers, small farmers, transfer of land, family farmers. And now this company can buy up 24 or 5,000 acres of land they have now, buying and buying and buying. You've refused to reinstate the Land Commission. You closed the blind eye because you were all brought down to Coolmore and fed and watered down there some years ago. And it's disgusting and disgraceful. Not a perch of land can be bought in Tipperary by any young farmer, any family farm, but these vultures, with Chinese and other money, big fat checkbooks, they're getting this relief. It's time you can separate the chaff from the straw, from the oats. Same with the VAT and the Dublin and the hotels in the country. This wasn't set up for these vultures. They're no better than the vultures that are coming from abroad that are victimising our people with houses, because they're buying houses too. And they're getting away scot-free and laughing all the way to the bank, using this wonderful scheme set up for family farms, hijacking it, abusing it, and a rush. We thought you'd change it this year, but you didn't. So they'll have another 12 months to do what they like. And I'll be putting forward amendments in the finance bill, as I did last year, to put a 50% tax on land acquisitions, land holdings over 750 acres. And you know that's a big holding in Wexford and Tipperary. It's a high threshold. Not the 27,000 acres. And buying up all the straw, these little ordinary farmers without any bit of straw to purchase. This is not welcome in Ireland. This is the landlords back again. The landlords, the British landlords, and I came from London today in the House of Commons this morning, didn't treat our people like that before the first shots of the Civil War were fired in Solihull Beg in 1919. They had to go to take up arms. And we're going to have something like that in Tipperary to stop this. And not only Tipperary, it's East Waterford, West Waterford, East Cork, Kilkenny, and up into Dublin. And there are other vultures as well up here, so-called syndicates. But it's wrong, and you can't see. Are you so blind you can't see that the scheme that you brought in, for good reason, is being hijacked and abused by conglomerates like this and putting ordinary people out of business? Go on, Mark.